I wanna try and take in all the highs, embrace them for more than a moment's time. I want you, please don't move when I push you away. I know I contradict myself some days, but will you ride the lows with me?
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I am your host, Kristin Sunanta Walker. Our goal is to help discussions about mental health be a regular part of your daily life, no different than discussions about physical health. Mental illness can be a topic of discussion under the umbrella of mental health, along with so many other topics. This show is the original program on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com. Our network of shows are played in over 180 countries and cover more topics under that umbrella than you can possibly imagine. We were talking about mental health long before it became cool and popular to talk about, and thank goodness it has become so popular. We have incredible guests, advocates, patients, experts, people. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy our intro music, a song named Lows, written by Aubrey Toon. You can find her music at www.aubreytoone.com.
With me, will you ride the lows with me? When I'm down, my vision gets blurry.
Hi everyone, Kristin here. I've got a surprise show that we're doing. It's so perfect. It's being recorded on New Year's Eve of 2025, and it's with someone that I did a show with, I think in 2019, that was around the dark night of the soul on the same, New Year's Eve. So she just reached out to me to say, hey, can we do that again? And our topic, I'm going to let her explain that to you. But first, I just want to say hello, Robin Jillian. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So much my pleasure. And the synchronicity is beautiful. I love it. Ending the year and beginning it with new insights, new awareness, it's all good. It's great. Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Our topic is evolutionary astrology, which you'll explain what that is. But I just wanted to add this one piece here. It seems so apropos as well for where people are going with their consciousness. And it's moving out of, I want to know who I'm good. What am I going to meet my next man? Or when am I get like that very I-centered knowing that we all need it and we all need at different times into, let's talk about what your soul is here to do. Let's talk about the evolutionary arc of your experience as a soul across potentially, multiple lifetimes. And why not? Even if you don't really believe this, listener, it's so interesting to at least be someone who can wear a different hat for a while and see what it feels like and take before you just slam it and say, forget it, take what you might get something out of it you don't even realize. So without anything else, Robin, please tell everybody what this is and why you decided to take your work into this space.
Oh, wow. That's great. And, I'm so passionate about what I do as an evolutionary astrologer and just as a human in what I've discovered through my journey, my dark night of the soul, if you were, as we discussed the last show, that I don't want people to hurt the way that I hurt going through this process. And evolutionary astrology really helped me. So this show is referring definitely to evolutionary astrology as the map, as the guiding light that I believe that spirit, God, universal energy, however you see it, and everybody sees it different. Some people are very uncomfortable with the word God, but they understand spirit or they understand the word energy. So however that feels good to your heart, that's what's right. And so what I've come to understand is that evolutionary astrology provides that light, that map, for the journey of the soul. Now, let me go back just a little bit to my first interview with you, which is on the dark night of the soul. And I just want to give just a very brief little bit about me. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. Since the age of 21, I had my first business. I've only ever worked for someone less than a year in my entire life. I'm the mother of 3 children. I live in Florida currently, which I love. I love the warmth, and I'm a water freak, so it's perfect. I'm the mother of 3 children, and had a very successful life in that way, but went through a tremendous amount of pain, kind of like around that. Like it's like I had this great run before that, though it was a very, I would say, difficult, upbringing, my childhood, a lot of trauma, a lot of things like that, a lot of things that all people go through. And that's what motivated me to do this work. And then since then, when I decided to change my whole life, which is what happened back in 2016, so it's been about 10 years, and I decided that through a soul calling, I had no choice but to follow it. And I'm going to talk more about that. So if you're going, what's she talking about? Please know that I will address it. And Kristin, I trust you to say, hey, can we know more about that? So that your audience.
I'm like, I want to know more about that right now.
Okay, we will, I promise. And I know we only have an hour, so I'm actually going to use some notes so that I make sure I cover everything. But so what happened for me is I had this calling. I knew that it was time for me to be somebody different. And it was just, I knew that I had the signs, and I'm going to go through that too, of knowing that I was discontented with my life. I was bored with my life. My relationships seemed to be leaving me feeling just so alone, so unseen. The communication, the depth wasn't there that I was craving in my marriage as well as in other relationships. My business, as much as I loved it and I loved the people I worked with, they were my family, truly. It didn't feel good to me anymore. And this can happen for people at different ways. Some people will lose their health or have a health crisis, if you will, or they'll have something horrendous happen, and like they'll come home and find their spouse in bed with somebody else, and that's not unheard of, right?
Right.
I mean, we don't like to talk about it, but it's not unheard of in any way, shape, or form. Or I found out my wife was having an affair, or whatever it is. Things happen, and all of a sudden we're looking in that mirror and saying, what is going on here? So when I made the decision to change my life, I had no idea what I was going to encounter, what I was going to come up against, because I'd always been that person to jump in and then check my parachute later. That's just my natural way to be. And, I can refer that to astrology symbols. But again, the people that are listening to this aren't necessarily going to relate to that part, but I will bring that in, how that influences. So what's happened for me since then is I've gone deeper into my own rebirth and understanding what that looks like, and the pain of that transformation and the beauty in that transformation. And what do I mean by transformation? The best way I can kind of akin that is to the caterpillar becoming the butterfly, and everybody kind of knows that.
Right.
Kind of knows that phrase, okay? But what I learned, and many people may not know this, is the caterpillar actually dissolves. It doesn't just, it's a caterpillar and all of a sudden it starts kind of sprouting this and then turns into a wing. And then, it just keeps molting, if you will, into an evolution. It actually dissolves into liquid. And that's what happens in the human psyche when we're called for this deep kind of transformation of the soul. And that's what I discovered that can be seen in the birth chart through evolutionary astrology. So let's talk about what that is. I'm going to begin with a quote to kind of like pull your heart into what I'm about to say, because I'm all about that. And it's a quote by Tupac. Death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside while still alive.
Truth.
This is not a dress rehearsal, this life. Okay, it isn't. And we have a purpose. We're here for a reason. You either know that in your heart and your soul, or you think, and some people do, I'm sure, that it's just random. Things just happen. That's life. It just happens. I happen to believe that there's a reason, and I can see that, and I've seen that expressed. And when you start being able to actually read the birth charts, you're like, wow, because things happen in this, oh gosh, this kind of, you can see the energies, you can see how the person's unfolding as they express to you what's going on in their life. You can kind of see it actually in the world happening. Another quote I really like, and I'm going to say this, and then I promise I'm going to get into it. I didn't write the script. I lived to play the role my soul chose. When the soul says, time to become the phoenix. It's one of the articles actually that I wrote that you can find on my website. And what happens is there are times in life when your heart can no longer carry the life you are living, which is what I've been describing, right? Turning into the butterfly. You begin to realize that you have no choice but to embrace your soul's directive to become who you were always meant to be. You can no longer accept the limitations of your life because it becomes so painful. And what is the purpose of the pain? The purpose of the pain is not to hurt you. Life is not inherently trying to break you down. And many people will feel that way as the victim. We will have that victim mentality. And we all do it at different times in our life. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's kind of part of the shadow of working through it. But when we can come to the place where we realize that we're not victims, that we're conspirators, if you will, we're co-creators with life, and understand that the pain is necessary, because what happens is that we can't think our way out because it's not a thinking thing. It's like in the cells of our body, the things we've gone through, the traumas we've experienced in our life, which are real and true for everybody. People don't like to talk about it. I don't blame you, but it's real. It's true. It's an important part of life to acknowledge that we do go through these things in life and they affect us. And what happens is we tell ourselves stories about these events, and they become part of our scaffolding, our structure of who we are, how we know ourselves to be. Kristin's this, Kristin's that. Kristin likes spaghetti. Kristin loves to, play hockey. Whatever it is, you start identifying yourself with these things, and they're not always just, some of the simple things I mentioned, but it goes much deeper than that. It's how you respond in life. It becomes, I know myself to be this great, helpful person. And those are all can be and wonderful qualities in a person. Who wouldn't want a person to be helpful and kind and nice? But if you're doing it out of survival, if you're doing it because you learned as a child, if you didn't override yourself to be kind, to be smaller than what you were, if that makes sense. That makes sense. I want to make sure I'm making
Well,
sense.
yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about my journey with learning about autism, that anyone neurodivergent that's listening will understand what you mean when you try to fit into the world by being smaller instead of being who you actually are. Yes.
Right. And that was a big part of my journey because I had a very unsafe childhood. So I learned how to read the room. And so, like, that's part of being an empath, actually.
Right.
Oh, she, they're an empath. Oh, that's really cool. But why?
Right.
Because you had to develop it in order to survive. So, those are the kinds of things that you start to unravel during this time where the soul is saying, no more. We're not going to live that way anymore. Even though from the outside to the world, everything looks copacetic. Everything looks great. Your life looks great. What could you possibly be unhappy about? And people will look at you and say, like, why did she leave a marriage? Why did she sell her business? When it was still successful. There must be something else going on, but they don't understand it. They see it in a limited way. I'm looking at it from a big picture. Okay. So, what evolutionary astrology states is that we've lived before, we lived many lifetimes, and that the soul comes in with a soul program, if you will. And that can be seen in the birth chart by where it's located. And I don't want this to become an astrology lesson, but a chart reveals like different areas of life where things occur in your life or where the energy is most potent. The planets indicate the different functions of consciousness. Okay, like Venus, the planet of love, of our values, of our needs, how we relate to others. It's the inner relationship to ourself and our outer relationships with people, how we listen, how we learn from other people, how we give to other people, how we receive and attract those types of things. And I'm not going to maybe make this an astrology lesson, but I'm just saying each planet has its own energy. So when you look at the chart in evolutionary astrology, one of the main focuses is the planet Pluto, which had all astrologers laughing their ass off when they said they were going to downgrade Pluto. It would be like saying, I'm going to downgrade
The
a
sun.
lightning storm. Yeah, okay, thank you. Better example. Yeah, we're going to downgrade the sun, okay? Pluto's very potent and indicates in the chart by its position, what house it's in. There's 12 houses, where it's located in the chart, and its generational sign, because Pluto takes a long time to go through a sign. So is it in Cancer? Is it in Leo? Is it in Libra? Is it in Scorpio? Those kind of things.
I'm gonna take some notes. Pluto.
Yes, of course. Please.
Okay, got it.
So it gives you the generational idea, but really the house that it's in gives you the energetic archetype that the soul is working through in this life and becomes the bottom line program. So when you look at a chart through that lens of evolutionary astrology, and what is evolution? Again, kind of like that's the metamorphosis. But evolution is how we grow. You've always heard that word in philosophy and psychology. I want to grow. I want to grow. It's not really, it is a choice, but it's not a choice. That's what I've discovered. We make choices, yes, but the soul is in charge. And when you go through a time when Pluto is speaking loudly, for example, in the birth chart. Now, how does it speak loudly? It's always there, Robin, right? Yes. But what happens is it touches planets in your chart and they're having a conversation. And the conversation with Pluto is Pluto, the line I like is the kind of my thing is Pluto takes no prisoners. Okay. No prisoners. Okay. It will strip you down bare so that you must look, and you can, and what I want to say is you can choose to look inside, which many people do, or what will happen is oftentimes, and both can coexist, absolutely. Pluto will change. There are things that will happen in your life that can be quite devastating. It works through, Pluto works two ways. Gradual evolution, kind of like you're just kind of moving along, things change, you grow within those changes, or cataclysmic evolution, where
I must have been on that one. Yeah.
shit hits the fan. You don't know who you are anymore.
Right.
It is profoundly painful and difficult. And, a lot of people in the spiritual community, and this is a problem that I have with it, is they will bypass the deep evolution by explaining it away. And you'll see people like that in your life. I know I do. You'll see people like, it's all good. It's all good. Or why did you attract that in your life? I know you were just in a car accident and
Right.
you're going to be in a brace for 6 months and you can't hardly move. Why did you attract that in your life? Those kind of things. And the spiritual bypassing is to not go into the emotional body, but to skip it. That's what spiritual bypassing really is. They skip that level instead of going deeply into the pain of it. Now, who likes to be in pain? Raise your hand. Now, I doubt whether any of your listeners have their hands up right now.
You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of like, because I write every day. I'm a huge writer. And this is something that unlocked for me as soon as I found out my wiring, my neurodivergent wiring that I was unaware of. And suddenly, because of that, I write every day and sometimes all day long about where my nervous system is at and where it might be about something in the past or something, whatever. And anyway, so I built this container to put that writing under a couple of different pen names. And I didn't use my network or anything to build it up. I just went there as an unknown person and quickly started gathering people that really get invested in the writing. So what I noticed there is people that come in and they don't want to do the work that I had to do to get to this place I'm at right now. They just want to read what I've written and then go, I'm there too. And if you are, that's great. But if you aren't, it's like you're trying on a jacket that really wasn't made to fit you. You do have to actually go through the work to get to that space. You can't bypass it, but especially if they're younger, like in their 30s, because I remember when I was in my 30s, I thought I knew everything and I knew nothing. Anyway, that's what it makes me feel like. You can't just put on the coat someone else has worn because you don't know all the hands that went into sewing that thing together that makes it that perfect fit because it's for that person. Anyway, that's what that made me think
that's
of.
beautiful. No, yes. It's like the difference between it's pretending.
Yes.
A lot of people are inauthentic and they pretend. And it's like saying, I'm wearing the robes, but you didn't really earn the robes. You're not really embodying the robe. You're just putting it on, kind of thing. And when you become more in the journey of awakening, it's a good word to use, becoming more aware of your light and your shadow. And we all
Right.
have the shadow side. We all do.
Absolutely. Like people want to skip that shadow side, and it's like, that's
Yes.
where the gold is. It doesn't mean you have to like, I don't believe anymore in the whole, you must suffer for your art. You must suffer. Look, you're going to
Yeah.
suffer no matter what, just because you're here. You don't need to create an altar to your suffering, for God's sake,
Right.
but you do have to actually honor it and walk through it and go, yeah, those are
Right.
flaws that I choose to examine because it gives you more access to yourself.
Well, one of the traps is that and I know this because this is one of mine, and it's part of an archetype that's deep in my personal chart, and that's the Pisces. I'll just mention it. Is that there was a belief that I needed to suffer in order to become more spiritually aligned.
Right. That's a big one for a lot of people. Absolutely. I mean, look at all of the monks that sit and whip themselves throughout time, whip yourself with,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's a process. I don't call it as much a journey as it's a process.
right.
And but the rewards are when I think well, at least for me, maybe you can comment on this, is you start loving yourself more and you recognize your own value and your self-worth. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. I remember going to a therapy session with my ex-husband, and he wouldn't take his glasses off, his sunglasses off, and the therapist finally said, "Can you take your glasses? Like, can we really have a conversation here? Can you remove this barrier,
right,
And
right.
he said a couple of things, and I instantly had this room open inside of me, and I felt connected to him. It didn't
Oh,
last long, but it was like, this is what you're supposed to do. Share that thing that's uncomfortable, because it gives you more access to where we're all supposed to be oriented towards. Not everything out there, in here.
well, you said something really, really important. And, many listeners right now are, maybe some of them are married, some of them are
Right.
divorced, some of them are, widowed or whatever, or just have been single and gone through a lot of bad not bad, but relationships. And I don't think any of them are bad, by the way, because they
Their
all teach
data.
you
They provide good data if you examine it enough. Yeah.
correct. But I want to make my point. I'm sorry. Sometimes I lose track of myself because I go so deep into the work. Um,
About being in a relationship.
yeah, it's about what you said about your husband, though. Okay, thank you. What I have found to be true in my life is that I have it seemed to attract people that, like my light, feel that strength within me and they enjoy that. And in fact, it can really like be exciting for them and great, but but it's too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's been something I've had to work through and the pain I've had to work through. Why am I abandoned? Why don't you want to be with me? You seem like you loved me, you cared about me. What happened? Is that fear is often the driving force in many people's lives. And again, I want to bring this down to a level. I'm walking this path with all of you, with Kristin, with everybody who's listening. I just may have some insights that you haven't gotten to yet. But people let fear run the show.
Yeah.
And they can't handle it because you reflect, you become a mirror,
Mhm.
and they can't face that and they're afraid and it becomes too hard. And then the relationships break up. And sometimes things, and not only do they, but oftentimes they don't break up consciously. They don't, it's like,
They just
you know,
want to flee what they're feeling. They want to flee what's being mirrored. And then they want to try to crack the mirror sometimes, blame the tool, blame the person that saw. Yeah.
shame.
Yeah,
Shame the
shame.
person.
Yeah.
Shame the person. Blame. Blame's a big one. If you're in, I can say to all your listeners right now, if you're in a relationship right now, whatever it is, I don't care who, it could be your child, your mother, your father, whatever, your lover, whoever it is, and they're blaming you, walk away. Because if they don't have the level of consciousness to work with you, now I'm not saying there won't be moments of that, of course. I'm not saying, you blame me, bye.
Right.
I'm suggesting that if you can't sit down and have a communication about that and say what's going on here and be honest and open, say, well, what you did really hurt me. Well, why did it really hurt? What you know what? The more I think about it, I remember my father talking to me like that. And I always felt stupid. And you just made me feel really stupid. And then through that, you can heal it. That's the healing. And that's what we're really here to do. And it's like part of me and my energy is like, I just want to have a good time. I'm very saggy. I'm fiery. I'm, like, let's have a good time. Let's, explore the universe. I'm very much about that. It's like, I don't want to talk about all this heavy stuff all the time. But it seems to be the way life works, and especially when we have that mirror of relationships in our life. But I really wanted to address that because what you said was really important, that a lot of people are just afraid to go there, and it hurts. It really hurts.
Yeah. And I've noticed too, I mean, there are people that come in and everyone is there for you. They're for your soul expansion, right? Every single experience, right? But someone comes in and someone is extremely manipulative and gaslighting and really about siphoning from you what they want. And that is good data too. And then there's the other side where, you meet a whole person who really self-sources and they can, and it would, depending on where you're at, you might you might blame them for being a mirror of something about yourself that you feel ashamed or fearful or insecure, and you launch an attack against this person that really wasn't being manipulative. They really weren't being a jerk, but you are blasting them because of what they triggered in you. And so it's been interesting for me to like notice the difference. Oh, okay, there's those people that really hurt because they were actively trying to wound out of their own wounds, of course. And then there are people who were not trying to hurt me. They were just mirroring a truth that I was not yet ready for.
Right, right. And if it's done with love, I always had this expression, put love first. I used to think, and I don't think this anymore, and I'm exploring it. I used to say to myself, love is enough. But it really isn't, because you've got to be able to make the choice to live in that space. And so I think you can love somebody, but again, it kind of comes down to the contract that you two have together.
Right.
And if you can't have your needs met in a way that what's most valuable to you, then it's not going to work. It's got you gotta be fed what you need. I happen to be very deep, and that's like really important to me. So everybody have their own values that they need, to have met within a relationship. But you both have to be willing. And
And you have to, I mean, you have to be willing to wear the hat. I like to use that a lot of, I don't know, I'm possibly projecting. Let's say there's some kind of disagreement or something feels off with someone and you don't quite know, is this a manipulative situation or is this
sure,
someone serving something up that's from a whole place? I always try to now. I didn't have the room inside to do this previously where I didn't have enough space to it was always looking at what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Or what are they doing wrong? What are they doing wrong? And instead I went, now I say, I see the same situation to where I'm the one who got it wrong, not in a blaming way, not in a shaming way, just what if this situation isn't quite what I think it is? Can I wear a different hat about this and see it a different way, which could be completely wrong? That could have nothing to do, but I at least try now. I not until like the last couple of years, I try now to go, well, how could I look at that differently? And what's interesting is nothing, um, nothing bad happens from doing that. It gives you good information, whether it's true or not. And I realize that's where someone who's becoming whole,
Yes.
that's a place you can only do when you've given yourself tons of room inside by doing what you're talking about, clearing out all the distortion that you're walking around with so that you can even entertain and be okay with maybe I was kind of wrong about that.
Right. 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 No, I like that distortion. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I think our human condition is we carry a lot of shame.
Oh,
And
yeah.
because it's been a shaming culture from our parents to, and I'm not saying parents are bad, but it's just, we pass on what we've learned. And unfortunately, shaming is a big part of the human condition.
Do you think the shame piece is, how they say, many healers and spiritualists and so on, and psychologists and
Hmm?
psychiatrists, many of them will say that, oh, when you are born into this experience of your soul, that's you, and then me, Kristin, you are born and you have amnesia because part of this place
Yes,
is,
yes, yes.
to me, you know what the amnesia feels
Yeah,
like? It feels like shame. That would explain the Adam and Eve
I
story,
love that.
so many things. What I mean, that's the thing that makes you go, I forget who I am, how powerful I am, what my gifts are, what I'm here for.
Right.
It's the shame fog, and that's the amnesia. I'm willing to wear the hat of being wrong on that, but it feels
No,
close.
that feels so true. I think that's a very amazing insight. I truly do. I think you have hit a lot there. There's a book. I don't know have you ever heard of the book The Little Soul in the Sun by
No, I need to write that down. The Little
yeah.
Soul in the Sun. Oof.
It's a child's book by Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote the books The Conversations with God,
Okay, okay.
which happened to be I think it's a trilogy. I mean, there might be more, but it's a trilogy for sure. And I mean, with the number of amazing books on this planet, it's still up there with my favorite. And
Nice.
I love, yeah, it's great. But he wrote this for children and Little Soul in the Sun. And what it's about in a nutshell is that it's a little soul and he's in heaven and he's talking to God. And he says to God, I want to learn forgiveness. I want to learn forgiveness. And he's jumping all over the place. I want to learn forgiveness. And it's like, okay, well, you know what that means to learn forgiveness. And so there's this little girl angel, and they get introduced. And it was explained to him that in order for him to learn forgiveness, he had to have a participant, another soul to participate in that he had to have something to forgive.
Mm,
So
mm.
the little girl soul explains to him, okay, I'm
Get
going to do this.
ready.
I'm going to do this. You're not going to be happy with me, and you're not going to remember, but I'm going to do this for you.
Oof.
And
For
I know,
you, not to
it,
you, for you. Perfect way to state it. Yes.
yeah, and it makes me, it's at least that's the way I interpreted it for sure, the way it was stated in the book.
Mm.
But like when I think of that, I like now I'm like getting emotional. I can feel it's so meaningful to me to understand that our relationships are about that, no matter how much they hurt. One of the gifts that I gave a boyfriend who I'm not seen really anymore in that capacity, I gave him that book and
Mm,
wrote a beautiful inscription in it because that's how I truly see it. He's my angel,
wow.
what I've learned. So, that kind of comes back to soul contracts. And that's something we could talk about a whole show on is soul contracts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You'll need to come on again so we can cover that.
That'd be my pleasure. It'd be my pleasure. It'd be my pleasure. I do want to make sure we have a couple. What I'd like to do is I'd like to, if this sounds good to you, um, is to talk a little bit about surrender, because I think that's an important part of the journey of self-discovery and a big part of how we get through some of this tremendous pain that we experience when we are being called to a higher, when I say higher, probably not the best word to use, a more awakened, more evolved kind of state. Like people come in, that's part of the evolutionary astrology teaching is people come in at different levels of consciousness. Now, that doesn't mean that they're less than or stupid. So let me
Right.
clarify. What it means is some of us come in as second graders or even kindergartners. Some of us come in as high school students. Some of us come in as college students or graduates thereof.
And there's no hierarchy there. It's literally about your individual soul. What did you want to do in this lifetime? Maybe last time you did everything the opposite of what you're doing now, or not even in relation to what you're
Oftentimes,
doing now. And so there is
right,
no hierarchy. There is no look at what Oprah's doing or what this person's
right.
doing, and I should be doing that because she's better. Uh, that's not how it works.
No, no, not at all. Not at all. So, but it does give a framework for how you can communicate with some people and why you can't communicate with others.
Right.
Why you can have a relationship with, somebody that's on the street that you see when you're out walking every night or something. Maybe they're a neighbor, and you can have chit chat with them, and you can even express, have a beautiful Happy New Year and mean it.
Yeah.
But there's not a closeness, there's not something to build on because you're totally at different places in your consciousness. So that kind of also really enters into the whole relationship thing and what we were talking about. Sometimes we'll pick partners that are not where we are, and that division can't maintain.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes, was I in a previous experience someone who was totally full of themselves and really full of ego and really uh, entitled? Because boy, this time around, I maybe I went, okay, that was an interesting experience. I learned a lot. There's nothing bad about my soul that I wanted to learn what it was like to be a complete egomaniac, maybe full of narcissistic
Mm-hmm,
distortion.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
this time
Yep,
around, I
yep.
wanted to become an empath and on the receiving end of really get, quote unquote, humbled about that kind of behavior and
Right,
have to work my way towards being more full of myself, but in a good way, not that other way, right?
well, now that you mention it, I'll give a little seeds or something to people that do know a little bit about astrology. Is that's very much a part of the Leo archetype.
Mm,
Leo, which is related to the sun. It's the same archetype as the sun. It's about creative power, how we shine, our creative potential, how we self-actualize. And Leos have a bad rep. If you read about it, like in the traditional, you might even hear it online or things like that. Leo will walk into the room and the arrow come out. Well, let me tell you about me,
right.
right? Yeah, I'm looking at you, but let me tell you about me. Okay. But what is hard? Well, it's difficult to kind of understand, but when you start working with it more, especially when you're looking at charts, is that it's a very insecure archetype.
Right.
And the reason that somebody may come in with a lot of that Leo is, and I'm not saying all Leos are going to be like that. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that's kind of like the shadow, if you will, of the Leo archetype. Not a necessity because you have Leo in your chart or a lot of Leo. But what happens is that they have this great sensitivity because they haven't been seen. They haven't been acknowledged. Maybe past life they were a scullery maid,
Right.
and
And
they
now they wanted to experience being the king of the castle. Does
they
that
want to be
that
seen.
it's why it sounds so ridiculous to me now, and yet I still find it being out in my
Right,
language because it's how
right, right, right.
we're taught to measure against everybody else instead of realizing this is your journey.
Correct.
Period.
Right.
End of it
That's
right
right.
there. That's it.
That's right. That's right. There's something I did, like I said, I wanted to get to and don't want to miss it. But yeah,
Oh, and you're
absolutely.
fine. If we go over,
Okay,
that's
good.
fine.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to share another quick quote. The real failure is not to be untrue to others, but untrue to ourselves.
Mm,
And that was a quote by Carl Jung, who happens to be one of my heroes.
me too.
I'm a Jungian through and through.
Me too.
Yeah, and I would recommend it to your listeners. Check him out if you're not familiar with his work. And but one of the things when you are going through, I'm just going to go back to Pluto. Let me find what I wanted. There was something I wanted to express. Let me see if I can find it. Where did it go? Okay, I just wanted to get back so it's a little clearer about what Pluto is about and what it
Yeah,
represents in the chart. I think that's really important. And then I want to talk a little bit about surrender, if that sounds interesting.
of course.
Okay, so what I was saying is, and this kind of puts it, I write it out, and sometimes I'm a little clearer when I write, but what Pluto represents and symbolizes is, where it's located in the house position is the area of life that symbolizes the soul's deep, unconscious attachments. So it's the deep unconscious attachments. Those would be patterns of behavior, ways of being, where security has been sought. Now, we all want to be secure. It's human nature. But what happens is that when the soul is evolving and going through things, it's necessary. Part of that archetype and energy is that life changes. Things do not remain the same. Things have to be let go of. Things change, jobs change, partners change, friends change, the dog dies. Things happen in life. Change is inevitable. That's the one thing, right, you can count on is change. And it becomes a sense of loss, though, when these changes occur to the soul that wants to stay secure. The soul, when it comes in, where it's fixed in your chart, says, this is my soul program. This is what I'm working on. This is what I've clung to for my emotional security. I don't want to let go of it. So the way Pluto works is often through like OCD. You've heard people say, I'm obsessive. It's just a way of controlling.
I'm making another note here.
It's a way of controlling their environment because the change is so scary. But it's necessary in order to liberate the soul from limiting patterns. So this is a good way to say it. So it's where the soul has been both consumed and confined, and where profound growth is not only possible, but required.
Because you picked it.
The soul picks it.
That's
and then there's other symbols in the chart that's called the nodes of the moon that go with that are part of the Pluto programming. The south node is where you have been, your ego structures of the past, the patterns that have fulfilled the desires of Pluto and where Pluto is placed in the chart. So they work together. And everything in life and the way you can, in a birth chart, the way you can look at it is it's always polarities. One feeds the other. Not the idea, the best response, of course, is always to be as balanced as we can be. If we're too Leo, okay, I'll go back to that example. If we're too Leo, what would be the balance of that? To be more Aquarius. Those are polarity points. Aquarius is freedom loving, it's being authentically real. It's being able to walk the path alone. Whereas Leo, I need you to see me, Kristin, see me, appreciate me, love me. So you don't want to be in that Aquarian extreme where you're the loner, where you um, can't relate, where you disassociate from others. You want to be somewhere in the middle, right? You want to be able to be seen, be recognized, give your love, that's sun, but also know who you are and be confident in that. And the gifts, give your gifts. It's not about being so self-absorbed, in that way. Just it kind of, I mean, you could say a lot more, but it gives a good example. So if I see that really prominent in a chart or something like that, I'll say, okay, where is that happening and why is that happening in that way? And I can express to the client what they're learning and why it might be up. Maybe Pluto is knocking on that Leo sun's door right now, saying, no, awaken. It's truth telling. Pluto breaks it down and says, this is the truth. You've got to live by that. So that's kind of the basis of EA in that way. So Pluto is where the soul clings for security and control. The house, then, just to kind of break it down one more time, is the field of experience where evolution is demanded.
I have to set up a session with you. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, keep going.
The sign that it's in, the archetype, if you will, is the core orientation or tone of that. So, that gives you a little more information, which is more of a generational thing, but it's nevertheless important. But when you're going through these massive changes, these massive transformations in your life, you're being called to. One thing I want to kind of go over. How do people know when they're going through this? Let me just kind of, if I refer to it, it's a little bit more helpful than if I just try to rattle it off. Yeah, maybe I'll rattle because I'm not finding my note anywhere. Who cares? But again, kind of like what I said in the beginning, you just become disenchanted with your life. You might have yearnings or desires to do something, maybe something you were attracted to years and years ago and let go because life responsibilities, you thought you were supposed to be this responsible person in this way, but you gave up your passion for writing or
Whatever
art,
it is, exactly.
whatever it is, working on car engines. Okay. It doesn't have to be this, what society describes as being art.
Right, exactly.
If you talk to a mechanic, it sounds exciting when you break apart the car engine, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I have a friend he's a, geneticist, and that is not my bailiwick. You know what I mean? That's not it. But let me tell you, I could sit and listen to him for hours because of his passion.
I know. Isn't that beautiful?
It's amazing. And I can write like 17 essays out of what he just said, not out of not explaining how science works and the way he's talking about it, but in how it made me feel to watch someone fully embody their gifts.
Yes. Yes. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, it may not, like you said, may not turn you on, but yeah, I hear you.
But the light about it does. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely, 100%. When someone's being real and authentic, you know it. I'll tell you a quick little story. And I met a woman the last couple months, and she owns a cafe here where I live, and she serves only organic food, which really turned me on. And I got to know her. She's from Germany, and she's returning to Germany now. But she was here for 7 years running her cafe. Why am I telling you this story? Is because what I realized is I felt so attracted to her energy. She's real stand up and she's like, doesn't take any shit. And she'll tell you exactly what she's thinking and what's going on. And she's just real in that way. And I loved that. And I thought, wow, I met somebody that I really can talk to. But what I discovered in time was that her energy was so disorienting for me. She was very scattered, couldn't stay focused. And I could feel that she was running, 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 always running from her life, never could sit still, never could really have those deep conversations. And although I appreciated so much about her, I realized that it wasn't feeding me.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm just saying this to say from a personal point, and maybe hopefully other people identify with it, is that you can admire somebody, qualities in somebody. They can even have a great heart, which I do think in the bottom line she did, but it wasn't real. And that's why now I'm coming back to it because we're talking about being real. She didn't feel real to me. She
Mm.
felt like she was, I mean, that part of her was real, but she didn't feel like, she just felt like I said, it was like the running.
A guest in her own house, and you live in your house. That's why it didn't.
Thank you. Thank you. I need to have a session with you.
We'll do a trade.
I'm serious. That is beautiful.
I'll
That,
turn that into an essay. Like the minute we're done with this show, I'm going to be like, yeah,
well, it's interesting because I was thinking about a relationship in my life that's been very, very important to me. And what I realized, I was in the shower and I was thinking about it. I was thinking, we're not in the same room when we talk.
right.
I don't feel like I'm in the same room. I'm not included. And so you come to these observations, the more awake, the more aware you get of your own patterns, what you need to experience. And I know that I needed to experience some of the things in order to say, finally,
Yeah.
and I got to say, you might edit this out. Fuck this.
Oh, I'm not editing anything.
Not fuck you, not fuck
Right.
you. Fuck this.
Right.
Because it came from a place inside me where I felt lacking.
Mm.
I wasn't good enough. And that's the way I saw it for a long time. I'm not good enough. And all I want to do is I want to please you because I love you, but
And that's how I get my worth is by figuring out what you need and trying to be that for you. And as I do that, I'm erasing myself.
that's right. And men and women both do it. And I want to
Oh
make
God, yeah.
I've said this before on your show before, and I'll say it again. I am no way a feminist. No way a feminist. I'm a humanist.
Mm.
It's for men and it's for women.
Yeah,
Both.
I am too. I mean,
Human.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
But we're at the hour, and I was going to talk a little bit about what surrender looks like, but we
Go
can
for
do
it.
that another time. Okay.
Do you want, if
Okay.
you want to talk now, I mean, we're on a roll. If you have the time, I'm here. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
let's maybe take another few minutes, because I'm hoping that people will listen to the whole thing.
Well,
If it gets too
I'm
long,
gonna break it up into 2 shows. So this is
okay,
perfect.
beautiful. Okay. So why do I want to talk about surrender? Because when you're going through these deeply transformative, painful times in your life, and much of your life is ending, if you will, and you feel like it's the death of you, not your physical death, although that can happen, of course, but it's the death of this self that you're being reformed, reborn.
You're dissolving, as you said, the caterpillar.
Beautiful. Yes. And that's what the planet Neptune does. Thank you.
Mm.
Neptune is the planet of surrender. It's our spiritual journey. It's faith in life. It's love. It's compassion. It's also how we place ultimate meaning on things that outside of ourselves, so that when they break apart or fall apart or leave our life, we go through profound disillusionment, which is one of the worst pains in life, is to go through disillusionment, is when something you believe so strongly in is no longer true, because it's the death of you and what you have held, oftentimes for a very long time. So what is surrender? You might hear, a lot of people might hear that word, surrender, surrender. You need to surrender. What is surrender? And I made some really good notes, so I'm going to go through it. You need to reframe it. It's not giving up. It's not taking the flag and going, okay, all right, I give up life. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to eat
Not
bonbons.
becoming a doormat.
Correct, correct. It's not weakness. It's courage. It's courage in the most real sense. Just like vulnerability is courage. It's not weakness. Telling you when you've hurt me, expressing something that's real to me is not weakness. It's courage. It's being vulnerable. And that's, a lot of people cannot go there, unfortunately, because to admit that they're that open, they risk. But you know what? You can't evolve and become more of your truer self unless you risk yourself. So again, reframing surrender is not collapse. It's opening to what is. Surrender is what opens the door to what is real and true. What I like to call love. I think that love is why we're here. I'm a big mushmallow. Why it's so hard to have faith. For some, it feels like life has been cruel, and it has been. And to deny that is not, to try to reframe that it didn't happen that way, that doesn't work, because life has been cruel in many, many ways, different ways for different people, some more than others. Some are here to evolve more quickly, Kristin. And you can see that also in the chart, depending on the number of aspects that Pluto makes. What's an aspect? It's conversations it's having within the chart. If it's having a lot of conversations with a lot of different planets and a lot of different aspects, it's talking a lot. Those are areas that are here to have deep evolution. So when you see that in someone's chart, then they're here to do some deep, deep work. And some lifetimes are more restful. I'm going to get married, be married to the same man for 40 years. I'm going to retire after 25 years on the job. I'm going to have my grandchildren. I'm going to travel to Europe. Is any of that wrong? No. But it's not meant for some people to live that kind of life. Some people are meant to go out on the spiritual battlefield. And unfortunately, I raised my hand, guilty as charged. So why it's so hard to have faith? Because life has seemed cruel. Trauma, betrayal, abandonment, sudden loss throughout the life. That's why it's hard to have faith. How can you have trust in life again? Acknowledge their pain without trying to fix it.
Yeah.
And you know this, I'm sure you do. The pain is real. You're not crazy. You're not alone. That's a big, important thing. You're not alone. When you feel alone, boy, that's the hardest thing of all. Now, there are times when we need to be alone. And I don't mean just like, I need to go in the other room, Kristin.
Like really alone. Yeah.
Live alone when you haven't lived alone. Not be in a relationship when you've been in relationships for, most of your life, things like that. Paths of change, conscious choice, which is like my own story, marriage, business, home, how I choose things. Forced change comes. That's like through illness or like the things I talked about, or, a couple times in the show. Things happen all of a sudden, bam, that bolt of lightning. You're whistling down the street one day, and then all of a sudden, a car comes up on the curb and hits you,
Right.
things like that. Sometimes we choose, I guess is the point, and sometimes life chooses for us. And that comes down to a whole nother subject of cooperating with the soul's agenda or not cooperating. But it's harder than what it sounds like. It's like, oh, I'll just cooperate. Again, you're giving up your structure, you're giving up your scaffolding, you're giving up what made you feel secure. This is how I know myself. Standing on that precipice and not knowing who you are and where you're going, and it's dark and it's foggy and it's cold. That's what it feels like. And to say it's not that, what were we going to say?
I was just going to say it's even looking at where you've made a quote unquote wrong turn, or you were at a choice point, you're at a fork in the road, and you could go this way, which is towards what seems like expansion and light and love. And then there's the other way, which is going to be pain and suffering. Well, you know what? Sometimes people choose that other road, and that's their freaking business, because they're going to get something out of it that they need to get, that they're not going to get maybe going from that other way. And it's not for you to go look at what they did wrong.
Right.
It's really none of your business.
Sometimes you have to you have a fork in the road. And what happens, I think, in life is like, okay, you're at that fork, and go left or you go right, and you go left. But what happens is 15 years later, you forgot
that it was just a detour for a while.
And that's where life is cruel sometimes. It's like the comment. It's like, why is it that when we get older, we have maturity, we have wisdom, we have greater faith, perhaps, maybe not, more life experience. And we can actually look at things in life and enjoy them in a new way, not so much like the doing and the going and the being. And then we die. It's like,
lesson learned this time round. Lesson learned this time round. On to the next. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's make this life mean something. Let's live it. Let's really live it.
I think we don't realize too, and maybe this is just a truth for me, but at some point towards the end of this year, 2025, I went, okay, I still have a choice. Like everybody has a choice where you can wake up inside your life and make a choice. And mine was, okay, I have definitely, done my time in the pain and the trauma and the betrayals and all those things. Like I've given it a good, solid go round to know it, embody it, feel all the feelings, work through all of that. And now I want to go the other direction, because I haven't experienced a bunch of falling in love from a whole place within myself. I haven't had those kind of friendships where you just, where it's I haven't done that piece. So like, it's okay for me to say, from this point forward, I'm going in that direction. Like
I love that.
I'm in it with my soul, and I've had a conversation with my soul, and this lifetime, this individual Kristin is choosing not to bypass anything, just to go, I want to see what this feels like now. And I got to tell you, the minute I made that declaration, my life started to rearrange itself around making that happen.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And you can see, if you keep your eyes open, you'll see the synchronicity. You'll see things coming to you, whether it's video, books, friends, interviews. Yeah, it's true. The reason I said in the beginning, or not in the beginning, but during it, I said, sometimes I feel like you don't have the choice, is because for me, I actually didn't feel like I had the choice.
Well, me either.
My soul was making it. I
Mm-hmm.
could not stay in the marriage. I could not keep that business. I could not stay in my marital home and be true to myself. I couldn't
Exactly.
do it. I wish I could have sometimes. And even now in my life, there's things I wish I could do that my soul just says no. Like I wish I could, okay, Robin, just, to have some company tonight. Maybe you could, keep it a little lighter or not meaning I'm heavy all the time, but can you do this? Can you like listen to that other person talk for an hour and you don't get to say a word
Mm.
because like you used to? And it's like you can't do that anymore because I want to be in the room with you. I like it. I like the connection. I want to be here with you. You're pretty cool, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So true. So true. There's so much that as we move out of the shame, which is that amnesia, and we have more access to self, the more we want to be around people that also have
right.
cleared out a lot of distortion, have much more room inside for them to have examined different chambers within themselves. You start orienting towards wanting to be around those people, and often those people have lived through so much shit, it's unbelievable.
A lot of times the most, I'll say like spiritually evolved, like people that we really do admire, like people that we hear, in books or spiritual teachers that we all know of, have lived really hard lives, have
Yeah.
gone through a lot. I mean, like the bottom of the barrel, like they were
Yeah.
like addicts on heroin in the street.
Yeah.
Um, Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote Conversations with God, was homeless for a while. He lived in a park, not out of addiction. There's other reasons. I don't have to go into it, but those things shape us, and that's what I just want to say very importantly, because I've said it many times, but to the listeners, really, that you matter, your heart matters, and when you go through these times, you're not alone, and it will feel like death,
Mm.
but it reveals who you really are and who you're becoming, and you're becoming more real, more true. And the pain is not to break you, it's to remake you.
Mm.
And that doesn't make it easier. These are not, but it can help to know that as you keep putting one foot in front of the next.
Mm.
Yeah. And I bless everybody who's listening and on your journey, on your path of awakening. Um, I send all my love, truly, because I know how painful it is. And there's nothing I'd rather do and be than to see people love themselves, truly love themselves, and believe in their own worth. And that's a story for next time. I'll leave that as a cliffhanger, is how I got involved in my business. And I may have said that on your other show, but that's a good story because it was coming from that place. And because it came from that place, the universe said, "Oh my God, girl, you go, let's rock it." And my business in 4 months went from, being in the red, like all new businesses, right? You're putting out more than you're taking in, to 4 months, it just exploded like a rocket ship.
Wow.
Yeah. And I totally attribute it to being in line with myself, with my heart, with my purpose.
I
So,
love that.
yeah, it's true. It's a true story. I talk about it in my book.
Yeah, tell everybody your books, where your website, how people can schedule a session with you, all that.
Okay. My website has just been redone because it crashed, and you can reach me through that. And it's, of course, www.Robin Jillian, my name, ROBINJILLIAN.com. And you can schedule through my website. There's a place where you can ask me questions. I'll get back to you to schedule. Right now, I'm doing it that way personally. I don't have a scheduler on my website at this time. Um, My book is that I wrote when I was going through the darkest night of the soul. It's called Hugging Trees in the Dark,
Mm.
Finding the Courage to Free the Heart. And you can buy that on Amazon or through my website. There's a link. And basically, it's a personal memoir. And it's my journey that I went, my life basically. And my basic, and a lot of prayers to God in it at the end because I had nowhere else to turn. And I always had faith. Let me say that I always had faith, and I ran my business that way. Like, and again, I don't want to, go off in another tangent, but sometimes faith can come and go. It's not,
Yeah.
don't judge yourself. I still do that sometimes. Robin, you had so much faith. What's wrong with you? Where did it go? But it's not this journey, or this process is not a spiral. You're not like, it levels, it goes up, it goes down. Ultimately you go higher, or more awakened, or whatever, however you want to frame it. But it's not just like it's not like a direct shoot up. Like I'm at level 1, I'm going to go to 2, and I'm going to go to 3. It doesn't work that way. And then sometimes the more you get awakened, or you start seeing more patterns, that's what I mean by awakened, within yourself, you actually kind of have to go back and dig deeper to some of the things that you thought you let go of. It's like, well, why am I thinking about that right now? And then
Right.
you say, okay, there's a reason I'm thinking about this. Let me ask the questions. What is this bringing up for me? Why am I thinking about this now? It's getting real and honest with yourself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
want to add one piece that just came up for me this week because something sort of got installed from the inside regarding me having um, some kind of architecture that is a real boundary. I'm not an empath walking around anymore, porous, just where everybody gets metabolized no matter what through me. And then I have to write
Oh,
about it and did it like that is not, that is an interesting experience. And it happens for all of us. And then there, for me, I got this kind of, I want it's not a shield, but it's just something that kind of clicked in my solar plexus around things come at me, people and their energy come at me, but I control the lever of how much goes in.
I love that.
I still feel it. I
Yay.
still feel what it's about, but it's almost like words showing up on a screen and I can go, yeah, I don't want that. I don't want to dive into that. Instead of it going in and then I have to
Deal with
metabolize it and deal with it. What now it just is there. It's
Wow.
just data and it doesn't have to take over
Wow.
my whole experience.
I
Thank
love that.
God.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Good, because I can't say that I'm there.
Well, we'll
And
talk
it's
about
but
that offline. Yeah, that was a huge.
huge, huger than huge. Huge. That'll change
I
everything.
walked taller the next day. I walk differently. Gait is different. I'm more tender and vulnerable and all those things, but
Yep.
reoriented around having this structure here instead of just woo, whipshot all over the place based on what energy's coming at me. I never understood that when people would say, you just have to have boundaries and you have to do these
Oh
exercises.
yeah, 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 right.
It's like, well, that's
Uh-huh.
all great, but if you can't, if you don't, that is an internal job to create that.
Correct.
I'm not going to
Correct.
read a book. Read a book that has some information about it might help me create it, but I still have to do the work to create that protection.
That's right. That's
So
right.
anyway, that's been an interesting piece around, around
Self-love.
self-love.
Self-love, Kristen, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
I do want to say one thing that I'm going to be creating a YouTube channel and I'm hoping to have it up by February or in
Wonderful.
February. And it's going to be so anybody listening, you can start looking for that and maybe, who
And
knows,
you
maybe.
and I are going to talk about TikTok today, so get you on
Okay.
there
Yeah.
too.
Close to Perfect is going to be the name of the YouTube channel.
Nice.
Yeah. And like I said, February is my launch date. I'm using my astrology chart as a guide for when I think I'll be clear enough to do it. And I see January still being very much of a healing month. December was a big healing month for me. It was the first Christmas, well, probably not the first Christmas and New Year's I'm spending alone. Probably maybe my second or third in my entire life.
Nice.
So I was like, okay, um,
Yeah, my first Thanksgiving alone, I was like, God, this feels amazing. Wow.
oh, good
I
for
did
you.
not feel lonely. I was like, I mean, I felt like I should feel bad. I still hid it from people, like I
Oh,
should be embarrassed. But how I really felt within it
yeah,
was no one wants anything. I don't have to call anyone out of guilt. I don't, it just was so, it was just mind
free.
blowing how amazing it was.
I love it. I love it. Well,
But
thank you so much.
absolutely. Listeners, please check out robinjillian.com. She's amazing. Schedule a session and she will come back on again. Robin, thank you for coming on the show. And thanks for reaching out to do this again. What, five
I
years?
know it's really cool. I know. It was it's the way the universe has been working with me lately. All of a sudden I get a hit and it's like, okay, do it.
Follow that.
Yeah, and you responded right away though.
Oh, yeah,
You were like,
immediately.
let's do it. I'm
I was
like,
like,
what?
hell yeah.
Great. Well, I'm happy to be here and I hope the listeners benefit. That's the bottom line. Yeah.
All right, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you and we'll have more of Robin on another episode of Mental Health News Radio.